It's the Early Exchange on SOUQ News TV. We thank you for staying. This time we'll look at the issue between the U.S. and TikTok as the United States Department of Justice, along with the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, has filed a lawsuit against TikTok and its parent company ByteDance, alleging widespread violations of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Now, the allegations is that TikTok has been collecting personal information from children under 13 without parental consent. And there are also allegations that TikTok failed to delete the data collected from the children upon request of their parents. And there are so many allegations in this lawsuit. Talking with us about this, what will be the implication, not just for TikTok, but maybe other social media platforms who have children as users, would be Taiwo Akinlami, who is a child rights activist and also into child safeguarding protection. Good morning, Taiwo.
Good morning, madam. How are you doing today?
Well, how are you?
I'm doing great. And you?
All right. Now, looking at the issue between US and TikTok, this is not an issue that started now. There have been some hostilities, if you like, between US and TikTok over other issues. But this time, majorly, it's TikTok is alleged to be violating the privacy of its users who are children by collecting data from them without the consent of their parents. What's your take on this suit filed against TikTok by the U.S. Department of Justice?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the first thing we need to clarify is the fact that by virtue of the provisions of Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, only children from age 13 can use social media platforms, whether it is TikTok, whether it is Zoom, whether it is TikTok, whichever social media platform, Facebook, Instagram. As a matter of fact, WhatsApp is 16 years. So now you can't come to those platforms before you are 13 years old. Now, research has found that most children, before they are 13, do approach those platforms to open an account. And when they come to the platforms to open an account, they lie about their age, about what their real age is. And in some instances, children are even aided by their parents in doing this across social media platforms. Now, where TikTok matter becomes dicey is that in 2019, TikTok was accused of this same practice of allowing children within below the age of 13 to register on their platform. Now, these children do not only register on their platform, they share the information of these children, across board. And so there was a case against there was a judgment against them regarding that. They have also challenged that judgment to say that it was unconstitutional. Now, on this particular matter, what the Department of Justice is now saying is that you cannot control whether children below 13 will come or not. But the point they are making is that TikTok has not put in place effective mechanism to check the age of these children before they come to their platform. Number two, when parents complain that their children who are below 13 have been allowed on TikTok, TikTok has refused or made it difficult to delete those accounts, for the parents to delete those accounts. So those are the two things, that are bones of contention here. Number one, have you put in place strict mechanism that makes it difficult for children below 13 to come on board, even when they try to come on board. Number two, where parents tries to delete those accounts, you don't put on their way roadblocks, bureaucratic bottlenecks for them to be able to remove that. I think those are the bones of contention here.
All right, Tao, good to see you again. This is coming at a time whereby it's crucial for us to shape the narrative and set the right standard here. Now, let's make reference to the Privacy Act, the Online Privacy Act, and then the provision. At what point do you think the privacy of a child is being compromised as stated by this provision of the law? I would like you to shed more light on that for our audience to understand, and for parents who are also watching to have a proper understanding about this development.
Okay, you see, by the thinking of the law, it is the position that children should not be able to come to any social media platform until they are 13. That is the provision of Children Online Privacy Protection Act, COPA. Now, and it is expected that social media platforms are supposed to put in place mechanism. Now, this mechanism, a lot of times, is subjective if you look at it critically, because when a child comes to Facebook, TikTok, you are asked your age. That's what they do. And you tell them what your age is. Now, they do not have, proper ways of judging whether you are that age or not. I think the steps that need to be taken further is to ask for things like birth certificate, things like, ID, all of these things can help. But as of today, I'm not sure that any of the social media platforms are doing that. It's like when you want to buy, you're not supposed to sell alcohol to anybody below 18 in many nations. And somebody comes to your platform, particularly if you are selling alcohol online. And the question is, the sellers will ask, are you below 18? The person, are you above 18? Are you an adult? The person just clicks, I'm above 18. They don't ask for birth certificate. They don't ask for ID. They just assume that you are 18 or you are above 18. But you see, what the law has done is, in those instances, is that it's a strict liability offense, which means that if you sell alcohol to anybody below 18, it is by itself constitutes a criminal offense. You cannot say, I did not know he was not 18 before, and that's why I sold the alcohol. So the foundational thing, therefore, is that what we must be looking at is, when is the mechanism enough? And I think it should cut across board, whether you are using Facebook, whether you are using TikTok, whether you are using Snapchat, whether you are using Instagram, it should cut across. What is enough as mechanism to be put in place? What standard is TikTok going to be held against? What is TikTok expected to demand for birth certificate, ID, and the rest of that? And what mechanism does TikTok need to energize to ensure that when parents discover that their children are on their platform, they are able to remove their children and the information swiftly? Now, the challenge a lot of times is about the information of children that are online and what those who want to harm children can do with it. I think that is the critical point that we need to outline. When our children information are online, there is a lot that can be done with it. And so because of that, it is therefore important that we pay careful attention with or without the suit against TikTok. I think parents have a responsibility to ensure that they pay adequate attention to the lifestyle of their children online, the information they release. Even in some instances, some of this information that are inimical to the general protection of our children are released by parents. Releasing their children are going back to school, putting the picture of the children, the school that the children attend, and all of those things that can lead to unnecessary information about their children. So these are things that are critical for us to look at. So when we talk about the privacy of children, we must be interested in why the law is interested in protecting the privacy of children.
All right. I like that you wrapped up by saying when parents need to understand what or know what their children are doing online. Because I was going to ask if the attention is on the social media platform. TikTok is the platform in focus here, but there are other platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube that have been accused or criticized regarding their privacy laws or privacy compliance with, especially for children who are users of these platforms. But for parents, in order for you to be online as a person, whether as an adult or a child, you need to have a device. Could be a phone, could be a tab. And we know that these days it's quite fashionable, quite a normal thing for parents to give their children such devices for whatever uses, whether for communication, for studies, or other reasons. If the expectation is that these platforms do not allow children who are below the age of 13 to come on the platforms, how should parents even try to ensure that their children are not participating on such platforms when they should not be? You've established the fact that sometimes these children lie about their age, even when TikTok or other social media platforms may have put this measures in place to ensure that they comply with the law, the COPPA law. But what should parents do when you find your child having an account and churning out content on this platform? What should they do? Should it be about saying, oh, the platform should take it down, or the platform should not use their children's data? What should be the response of such parents?
So number one, you know that you made a very valid point. You need a device to be on social media platform. So at what point do you get a device for your children? At what age? People have asked me that question many times, and my position is that I don't think it is about when to give your children, at what age at which you should give your children a device. I think the real issue is about at what age do you think your children are old enough, trained enough to be able to use a device responsibly. Now, some children use devices for the purpose of education. Now, we're not expected to, particularly you remember during COVID, everybody went online. You are not expected to give your children a device to go to school without, particularly the children studying online now, without supervision if the child is below 18 years old. Because when the child receives education physically in school, the child is not without supervision. A child does not just appear in a school in a physical sense when the school is physical without proper supervision, because they know that except the child is protected, education cannot go on. The same way, even if a child is using the device to receive education, any child below 18 should do that under supervision. So you don't give your child a car, for example, and your child is on the express, is on the highway, and you are calling your child to say, what speed are you doing? Are you able to, step on your brakes and all of that? There are basic things that the child should be able to do. Know how to use the device, know how to put it off, know when to put it off. But all of that will also be happening under the supervision of the parents. The challenge a lot of times is that parents also do not understand what their responsibilities are in these instances. And so parents drop the ball. Now, the challenge again is that social media platforms today have been found not to be the best thing for children to be exposed to because of their mental health. You know that in the United States, many education boards are suing Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all of these platforms for the mental health of children. And what are these governments, local government, state government, what are they saying? They are saying that research has found that the mental health of children are adversely affected because of the use of social media. They are now saying government cannot continue to be responsible for funding the treatment of children whose mental health has been affected by virtue of the use of social media. So this social media platform now should begin to take responsibility for treatment, for paying for the treatment of these children when it is found that their mental health have been affected. Some states are now even saying that children cannot go to Facebook, Twitter, any of the platform until they are 16 years old, and it must be with parental consent. Now, those laws are being fought, by so many interests. But the fundamental thing we must come to agree with is that it is no more a debate. It is no more under contention that excessive use of social media is not good for children, for their mental health, for their personal development, for interpersonal development. You look at children. Yesterday I was somewhere, to see someone, and I saw a teenager at the reception, waiting, and this teenager was just, he was not even aware that I came in. Now, he was just laughing to himself, giggling and all of that, and he was buried on his phone. Now, many years ago, if you are laughing to yourself, you'll be considered to be out of your mind. But now, there is a world beyond the physical world that kept that boy busy, that he was not even aware of his environment. Even when I came in, he didn't look up. He didn't see what was going on. So the fundamental thing, therefore, is that for the physical, mental development of our children, beyond what the United States Department of Justice is saying, parents must be interested in the well-being of their children vis-a-vis the use of the social media platform, and across board vis-a-vis the use of these devices, electronic devices.
All right. Interesting. You are really striking the right point there, because TikTok is regarded as the second most popular social media site after YouTube among teenagers. So it's a reality that they have to deal with, whether parents are up to their game or not, is the rave of the moment. Now, my question is, for parents who are also battling with this reality, what specifically do you think can be put in place? Because the concerns globally has to do with the online safety of children or teenagers when it comes to the use of social media platforms. What are the things like electronic control mechanism that can be put in place, either by the company itself, by parents, to ensure that they instill into children or teenagers the sense of responsibility? Because this is a reality, they have to use this platform. It's a matter of time. But what kind of parenting is needed here to instill into these children or teenagers the sense of responsibility? How can parents achieve this?
Children watch what their parents watch. The habit of children online is the habit of their parents. That's the truth, because you see, children don't do what we say, they do what we do. Parents themselves are being hacked, perpetually hacked. You pick up your phone, your goal is to make a call. There's something pops up. Before you know it, you've hopped from one site to the other. You spend 10, 15, 30 minutes hopping around the internet. Meanwhile, your goal was to pick up your phone and make a call. Before you knew it, along the line, you have even forgotten why you got on your phone. Now, that exactly is the issue we are dealing with, because those who created these platforms have made it addictive. There is a psychological battle going on there. For you to win that battle in the 21st century, you have to be aware that there's a commitment, there's an agenda to hack you. Now, when I'm talking about hacking, I'm talking about the hacking of your mind, of your attention, of your civility, of your dignity, of your focus, and of your business mindedness. So that is one thing. if as adults we are dealing with those issues, that should give us an inkling into what is happening to our children. We as adults are supposed to be more disciplined, more informed, more aware of the consequences of our action. Children are not always aware of the consequences of their action. I often say that children suffer from what I call, they are not always aware of the consequences of their actions. So because of that, it is our responsibility as adults to put in place certain rules, certain guidelines that is beyond parental control. Parental control is good. We have to use all of those apps, all of those resources to ensure that we follow, we control what our children are exposed to. We have an aware of where they go online. We are able to trace their footprint, and we are able to do the needful to prevent them from going to the places that are harmful. Now, that is one thing. But what we have found to be most effective is the value system that we inculcate in our children. What we are saying at our own end is that we have to move from this whole idea of child discipline to the culture of discipline. So online citizenship, online behavior should become value-driven, exemplified by primary and secondary parents. And when we're talking about primary parents, we're talking about the biological parent, the adoptive parent, or foster parents. And when we're talking about secondary parents, we're talking about teachers, lesson teachers, teachers in religious places of worship. Now, what the value system that you create for moderation, the value system that you create for focus, for dignity, for honor, for being purposeful in life is the value system that children are going to follow. My commitment is that we must hold social media platforms accountable, but at the same time, we must hold parents more accountable to their responsibilities to ensure that we don't get hooked in this rat race of what to eat, what to drink, and all of that, which I believe is very, very important, even particularly considering the state of our nation right now, and neglect basic measures that we need to put in place for the protection of our children. So if you ask an average family today, what is your policy concerning online usage by your children? Many parents do not have. They are just tagging along. It is when something goes wrong, their children have been reported to have visited a particular site that they begin to run around. That is not the behavior of human beings. Human beings are able to create futures. Human beings are able to anticipate the needs of children. We're able to anticipate the threat to them. We're able to make adequate preparation to meet those needs and mitigate those threats well before they arise. And the way to do that as a family is to have something that I call family constitution. You have a family constitution, and your constitution is clear as to the boundaries of your habitation, the boundaries of your behavior, the boundaries of what is allowed. It is not enforced by shouting. It is not enforced by saying I'm a disciplinarian. It is enforced by constant communication of your value to your children, constant reevaluation of those values, most importantly, exemplifying those values to your children so that you can be a reference point for them to say that this thing is possible. If daddy can do it, mommy can do it, then it is possible for us today.
Talking about things being possible, would it be possible to actually regulate the kind of content that is on social media platforms so that children or young adults who are there do not get to see content they should not be seeing, being that it's not like TV stations, for instance, or TV channels where you have parental guide and then parental guidance, and there are channels that children cannot see except they're allowed to by their parents, or maybe they know the code and so they can on their own do that without the knowledge of their parents. But there are some restrictions that have been brought into the broadcast world that certain channels are not open to minors. Can that be replicated on social media, given the nature of the social media space?
Well, I think that would be an Herculean task, because on the social media, is an all-commerce affair. If you are dealing with a TV station, the regulations sometimes can be national, because you can trace the TV station to its base. Now, when you are looking at online contents, a lot of it cut across. For example, ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, is not an American-based company. It's based in China, right? But it has a footprint, huge footprint in the United States. It is also important to know that TikTok in China is not an entertainment platform. It's an education platform. But they know how to protect their own children in China from all of these things that children are exposed to in the United States. That is a point that has to be made. That therefore means it is now our internal responsibility as parents to determine, or as government, or as child-focused organizations, or as NGOs, to determine what our children will be exposed to. Remembering and noting that what you see, it is first about contact. Contact is going to have content, is about content. So no, we may not be able to do anything about content, right? There are all kinds of content online. Do you know that there's a research that shows that 168 million Nigerians visit porn and betting site? 168 million. Research was released recently. So it's not about content. We cannot fight the battle of content and win. But there are two battles that we can fight. There is content. There's nothing we can do about content. People will release content. Even in Nigeria, look at the kind of musical videos that are being released. This is a content battle, right? Now, from content, we must move to contact. Because if there are content, if I don't have the access to contact them, then I'll be fine. So the battle really is about contact, right? Now, because we know content does not affect conduct, except there's contact. So the connecting point, therefore, is not about content and conduct, because people always move from content to conduct. No, it is content to contact, then contact will affect conduct. It is what we contact. It is what informs us that forms us, not what is existing out there. There are so many things existing out there. But when it comes to Nigeria as a matter of law now, there are regulations within the Nigerian law that is supposed to regulate the kind of content that is available on our TV and even available within the social media platform content creator who are resident in Nigeria. Now, the question is, are all of those laws being enforced? I was listening to Mr. Jibuno speaking on another subject matter, and he made a valid point, which I quickly want to elaborate, which is the fact that the problem is not always about the law. The law is always there. The problem in Nigeria and across Africa and sometimes across the world is the capacity of those who make law to enforce them. There's always a breakdown of communication between lawmakers and law enforcers. And that is why when the Child Rights Act was promulgated in 2003, UNICEF did not leave it to the whims and caprices of enforcers. What did UNICEF do? UNICEF went around the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, which I was opportune to be part of that team that went around educating people about the provisions of the law, because we know that beyond what the police can enforce, the people have to know the law and they have to be committed to it. So the question is, what does an average Nigerian parent know about the law vis-a-vis content? That is a major issue. You cannot clamor for a law to be enforced that you are not aware of. And they say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So if you are not aware, but the question again is that those who make the law, what effort are they making to educate people? So for me, the conclusion is, Chinua Achebe wrote, he said there's a particular bird that says, since men have learned to shoot and not to miss, I've learned to fly and not to pet. Since we now know that nobody is coming for our children, it now behoves us as parents, primary and secondary parents, to make a commitment to be committed to contact, since we can't do anything about content. Because, you see, content is not within your area of control. It's not within your area of influence. You can't change content today, but you can influence contact. And because since it is contact that informs conduct, then I think it is not a lost battle if we are able to put our fingers on how to ensure that what our children have access to, in the myriads of information that is available is what is appropriate for their age.
All right, nice submission there, Taiwo. Now, let's flip the coin. I like the fact that you're talking about the Nigerian online space already. You're aware of what the U.S. Justice of Department is doing as regards TikTok now. Isn't that an indication for, if you're flipping the coin to the Nigerian environment now, for the Ministry of Justice here to also see the possibility of alleged concerns of online users in Nigeria? What are the obligations expected of the Nigerian government as regards this development, taking a clue from what is happening in US and the lessons for Nigeria here?
So when you look at COPA, there's a provision of the law that makes it abundantly clear in the United States at what age a child can approach these social media platforms. The Child Rights Act was promulgated in 2003. The last time I was on this program, I made this point. It is important to note that that Child Rights Act that was promulgated in 2003 was promulgated before, social media becomes a major issue, right? Now, that Child Rights Act today does not have sufficient provisions upon which the Nigerian government can rely to take action vis-a-vis, exposure of children to social media. That's number one. Number two, the closest that we have found is the Cyber Act, Cybercrime, Act, which was promulgated, which tried to speak to things speak generally to cybercrime and speaks to stuff like stalking, cyberbullying, and the rest of that. And certain provisions here and there at the level of policy, particularly from the Federal Ministry of Education, trying to identify what we should define as cyberbullying. So I think that is number one. The number one thing is that right now there is no commitment to even review that law, to even amend that law, to amend a law 2003. That law, we're in 2024. That law is 21 years old now, if my mathematics is correct, and it has never been touched. It is because that law, matters that has to do with children, is not the priority of governments in Nigeria and across Africa. That is the truth. Because if we are dealing with a situation where UNESCO has told us that 21 million Nigerian children are out of school, when children are still subjected to practicing open defecation, where water, sanitation, and hygiene is still a major problem, those basic things that children need that make them be denied, be abused, be abandoned, have not been addressed. So you are now talking about social media. We need to look at this matter from that angle. My uncle's wife, Mrs. Ganel Fahemi, used to say something. I grew up with them, and used to say something. I grew up with the family. Used to say something. Say, that is, human beings have not found where to sleep. A dog is snoring. That is where basic issues like shelter, like education, like hygiene, basic social amenities are not being addressed. You are not looking at the government suing TikTok, Facebook, and all of those things, all of those platforms for the welfare of children, when the law that is even supposed to hold them accountable is comatose, is old, is in the woods. Come on. I think it's a huge joke.
Well, don't you think that may not exactly be the true picture now, given the fine that have been imposed by the Federal Consumer Protection Commission on Meta, the parent company, on Facebook, regarding privacy issues too? So if that conversation is ongoing, do you think this can just come into that and expand it, making it a whole conversation about privacy violations by social media platforms?
Well, this privacy violation of children can always be brought in at any point in time. So if the Department of Justice in the United States is going to sue TikTok, they are suing TikTok on the basis of clearly established regulation for the purpose upon which they are suing them. They are not improvising. They are not trying to bring it in under a particular law. They are not using innuendo. They are not insinuating it. They are saying clearly, these are the laws you have breached. Can we clearly say in Nigeria, this is the law TikTok is breaching. This is the law YouTube is breaching. This is the law that all the other platforms are breaching, LinkedIn, all of them. What laws are they breaching in Nigeria? You know that in a state called the state of Ohio, in the United States, they wanted children not to be able to use social media platform until they are 16 without parental consent, right? And they couldn't just do that. They forced us to approach their lawmakers to say, lawmakers, this is what we are trying to do. And in as much as the governor was interested in getting that done, I'm not sure he got the nod of the lawmakers. And I think he got the nod of the lawmakers. You know, some people still went to court to say that particular law is unconstitutional. Now, so that is a society that is committed to a process. For whatever thing we want to do for children, it cannot happen by happenstance. As I said before, we are creatures that create futures. So if we are interested in creating a future for our children, we first need to envision that future. And that's why I say care for children means to anticipate the needs of children, to anticipate the threat to them, to make adequate preparation to meet those needs and mitigate those threats well before they arise according to global standard. That is how care is supposed to work.
I wish we had more time, Taiwo Akinlami, to continue the conversation, but your point is well noted that there is a need perhaps for the review of the existing laws that Nigeria has to attend to the needs when it concerns the protection of children online. Thank you so much for being our guest on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you today. Have a good day.
All right. It's a wrap on Early Exchange for the week. I am Blessing H. We'll see you again Monday, 8 a.m. West African time.
Yes, indeed. That's our offering for today and for this week. But don't forget, the conversation continues on our social media platform as Early Exchange will get bigger and better. I am Femi Ayodele. Thanks for watching. Have a nice weekend.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.